I'm trying to get as many video diaries as I can before I go to the Eternal Spirit Foundation in Basel, Switzerland, where I will utilize their Dying with Dignity law for foreigners. As many of you know, Switzerland and Netherlands and some of these countries in Northern Europe welcome foreigners that have incurable, progressive, and terminal illnesses that cannot die in their own country or utilize medical aid in dying. In Switzerland, it's called AVD, Assisted Voluntary Death. Here, it's called Physician Aid in Dying or Death with Dignity. So I'm chronicling my journey and making as many video diaries as possible. I was talking about dreams before, the really vivid dreams that I'm having as my body becomes more paralyzed and I become more determined to leave this particular body and this particular existence and let my soul travel on, which is part of my philosophy. I don't believe that we die ever. I've read some scriptures and things in Hindu, and I'm very convinced, as well as near-death experiences, that the soul survives the body. I've seen animals and people die before, and I've had the distinct sense that there was an energy that was in the physical form that lifts and travels. So I'm not personally afraid of death. I actually am very excited to be able to let my soul travel from this progressive MS scenario. I am 39 years old and will be 40. And it's been a really, really rough road, mostly because of this degenerative illness. And I want to get as much on video diary as I can, in the hopes that sharing my wisdom, strength, and hope, as we say in AA and Al-Anon, can help someone, whether they are living with the illness and want to continue to fight, or they are considering death with dignity, or however that works. I think that everybody has the right. I know people who are in much more advanced MS scenarios that would never consider what it is that I'm going to do. And in fact, they wouldn't even consider the use of the medication in the quote-unquote 6-month terminal phase. And that's fine. I think as MS brothers and sisters and chronic illness warriors, we need to support each other in whatever each person is going to do. For me, I found through this MS journey that euthanasia was really my soul's project. For another person stricken with MS, maybe their soul's project is stem cell and advocating for adult stem cell, or reforming Medicaid and Medicare, or I've heard some really miraculous stories where people had MS and actually figured out ways to reverse the illness through fasting protocols and holistic healing. For me, I tried many different things and nothing worked, and I really found that my soul's project was to advocate for the good death, euthanasia, and people's rights to choose. So that is mostly what I talk about. I had started out talking about dreams in my previous video diary, and I want to talk about a dream that I have had recurring, and that is of the plane with the Swiss emblem. I think it's British Airways that takes you over to Switzerland. And I have this reoccurring dream that, just checking the time, that I'm going down the rampway that goes to the plane from the airport, and there's a lot of light. There's, as I get closer and closer to making this journey back, a lot of my visions and dreams are surrounded by this really, really bright light. And in this dream, the pilot, he's Swiss, he comes out and he asks me if I'm ready to board the plane. And I look at him and I have some fear and hesitancy because I know that this character in the dream is not really just a pilot, but he's a guide, a spirit guide, taking me from one side, which is this three-dimensional reality, to the other, which is the spirit realm. And he asks me if I'm ready, and he smiles as if to say, you know, there's no worries, don't worry. And I continue to hold on in fear. And I'm in my wheelchair, and I oftentimes in the dream will turn my wheelchair around and go back up the ramp into the airport. And he always smiles and shakes his head, knowing that, you know, okay, we're here and ready for you when you're ready, meaning uh, the spirit guide is ready to take me across when I am finally ready. So what is it going to take to be ready? The illness isn't stopping progressing. Every month, I actually feel it every week. My cognitive and my physical is going down incrementally. And I realized that there's a sensitive time frame here. If I can't, if I wait too long, I will not be able to utilize this option, meaning I will not be able to make a 13-hour international flight and all the travel to the plane and back. Um, it damn near killed me the first time when I went to go get evaluated for green light. The green light means they look at all your medical reports and see if you're of sound mind. So it really, really was difficult the first time around, and I was warned that if I went back, I had to be mindful of when it would be too late to fly back. So when I am actually ready to let go, may not coincide with when the illness is saying, hey, it's now getting too late to fly. And I have to be really aware of this. So there's an urgency on my part to really get my affairs in order and try to resolve whatever it is I can that was disturbing in this particular lifetime, so that I don't carry it across with me. I have a death doula that comes to my house and helps me with all the different domains, the spiritual domain, the physical domain, the logistical domain, about, you know, who gets all your belongings and your will and all of that. And you go through these different domains and hopefully try to tie up as much as you can so that you don't leave a mess behind, and you try to have some peace and understanding to the best of your abilities before you go. And it's what people in hospice would be doing. In my case, I am flying to Switzerland to take the barbiturates, so it's really the same situation. And I can't say that I am having total resolution with certain issues. And that's kind of what I want to focus on in this video diary, is when in this dream that I have where the Swiss pilot is saying, are you ready? And he's reaching out his hand and there's all this light around him and there's this long tunnel, you know, going to the plane. He's saying, are you ready to cross over? And to end a life is really the heaviest thing that anybody could ever do. Even though the illness is taking me anyways, I am deciding to go before the illness kills me. So it's, you know, it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, particularly when you don't want to die, but you really have to, because the illness is destroying your mind and your body, which is my case. So this dream occurs consistently, where the Swiss pilot asks me, am I ready, and to have no worries. But I do worry because I feel in some way, because of the way I was raised and various like exposures to indoctrination in the church, that I have to earn my way to heaven. And if I don't get certain pieces resolved and finalized, that I am doomed to come back and repeat them in another existence, or that I might be kind of a hungry ghost, as the Tibetan Bardo talks about, where you cross over and you're carrying a lot of these resentments with you. So I feel like a lot of pressure to graduate, so to speak, and get all of this sorted out before I go on that flight. And it's really very, very challenging. At some point, I have to just be easy on myself and say, this particular relationship or this particular thing that occurred, I still don't understand it. I don't really understand why this person did this or why this thing occurred, but I'm going to try to have as much peaceful energy around it so that I can let it go and not take it across with me into the spirit world. And that's really the best I can do. That's really the best I can do. They talk about grace in the 12-step program and in Christianity. And this is something that I hold on to, that really I may not have resolution around certain issues, but I can infuse them with grace. I can contemplate grace around those things that occurred, to the best of my ability. And also letting go and saying, God, can you take this from my heavy burden? Because in the end, it is kind of left up to Spirit, Holy Spirit, what He wants to do about certain things. I did my best with what I could, and I made mistakes. And I know that the people that loved me and cared for me made mistakes as well. And I guess they did the best they could, knowing what they knew, and there was a lot they didn't know. There was a lot that I didn't know. And at some point, you just have to hand it over to Holy Spirit or to God as you understand Him to be, and say, take this heavy burden from me, because I cannot resolve it in my mind. I cannot come to the understanding that I need. All I can do is surround it with grace and hope that I don't carry the pain and the suffering of that particular issue or relationship over with me. So ultimately, when I get on that plane, symbolically and literally, I want to be free of these heavy burdens. And if I'm lucky enough to raise enough money through Exit International or what have you to get a first class seat where I can actually lay back because of the spinal cord disease, I would like to have a champagne, to tell you the truth. I'd like to have a champagne, and when the plane takes off, to really understand that this is going to be an incredible journey, leaving the body and going back to the spirit realm, and to infuse it with as much grace and light and forgiveness and peace as possible. And I thank you for listening. I hope it can help somebody. Bye-bye.